let's continue with the question about chapter 2 and why in the
Okay.
world do we have two accounts of
Yeah.
creation?
Yeah, why?
Yeah, what did you have any thoughts on that?
Well, there are two different accounts, right?
Well, it seems that way, right?
It does seem, well, yeah, it seems like the first one. Here, let me pull that up here. Because it says that he, made the plants and all that, and then we're good to go. And then he's starting to do it over again.
Right.
And it just says, now no shrub had yet appeared on the earth, but we already know so, yeah, why do we have two different accounts?
Well, I guess the first question is whether or not they're telling the same story.
Are they? Yeah, because one discusses what dividing the firmament and all that, and this is
Right.
saying streams came up from the earth and watered the whole surface of the ground.
Right.
That's a little different, right?
Right. And a lot of people would be quick to point out that there seems to be contradictions in the order in which things were created between the two accounts. I actually find myself in the minority
Okay.
of Bible researchers in that I don't believe there are two different accounts.
Okay.
So what it appears is that in chapter 1, it is a description of the creation of the cosmos, and it ends with the creation of man.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens then in chapter 2, it's not at the very beginning of chapter 2. The chapter division's not great. But anyways, what happens in the second account is really a story of the creation of mankind. If you look at the way the verses are distributed, the total verses in the first creation account, there are 25 verses in English at least, that speak about the creation and how God created. And there are only 6 verses attributed to the creation of human beings. In the next creation account, so-called creation account,
Right. Yeah.
there are only 3 verses attributed to general creation, and then the other 22 verses are dedicated to the creation of mankind.
Okay.
So it's clear that they were written at different time periods, both by the verbiage that is used in the two different accounts. So if you look through some of the Hebrew language, you'll notice that they had a slightly different set of vocabulary between the two passages. But then also, the second account seems to backtrack. Rather than just saying this is a continuation of the previous story, and here is how God created mankind from this point forward. They're written at different time periods. The author of the second portion of Scripture had no clue, probably, that the second portion would be butted up against it in a book ever. So in order to tell the story of how God created man, he needed to at least say, a recap of how the earth was created before man was put on it.
So there was one author for the first recap, and then another author for the second one, is what you're saying. And somewhere along the way, they just got put together?
Oh yeah, there's a great majority of Genesis that is quite clear there are multiple authors. And
Because
so
I know we say it's Moses, right?
yeah, tradition would dictate that Moses.
I mean, except that he wrote about his own death. So
Yeah, obviously he didn't narrate his own death,
Right.
but and it is controversial among some Christians that there are multiple authors. We typically refer to the authorship of the Old Testament as referring to a structure called the documentary hypothesis.